The man behind Smiling Bob loses his fortune and his freedom.
And News Host John London has more on the male enhancement pill scam in this story. It's new tonight at 5:30. Hi, John.
Hi, Cherie. He was blinded by his own arrogance and greed. That is the bottom line tonight from a federal judge who hit Steve Warshak with a 25-year prison sentence and a $500 million fine. Smiling Bob bumped up against the face of federal justice today in a case about greed.
What would you think if I told you that an erectile dysfunction pill, touted as naturally enhancing, not only bankrupted a company, but sent a man to prison for 25 years and changed a law about email privacy? Would you say that was crazy? You'd be right. But now, imagine that company was promoted by one made-up man named Smilin Bob. And you may very well realize that what we have here is more than just a story about a mascot, but a mascot who helped sell one of the biggest scams of all time. My name is Penny Hayes, and this is Dead Mascots, the Smilin Bob story.
There is truth in advertising, yes I swear. Got new Nikes on my feet and Vidal Sassoon in my hair. I can sure use a Budweiser Fruit of the Loom underwear. There is truth in advertising, I swear. Why would they lie to me when they love what they sell? Plus we all know that the liars have a special fire in hell. On the television, radio, and in the magazines, the advertising gods perpetuate the American dream. Advertising, let it be, let it be. Now I know that I don't need to buy everything they try to sell me, but so easily divided is a fool and his money. There is truth in advertising, let it be. Why would they lie to me when they love what they sell? Plus we all know that the liars got a special fire in hell. On the television, radio, and in the magazines, the advertising gods perpetuate the American dream.
You may recognize this man. His name, as the commercial said, is Bob. And Bob is a happy guy. Why is Bob so happy? Because he's using an all-natural erectile dysfunction enhancement drug called Enzyte, guaranteed to get your junk back in working order so that you can get more play. But Bob also has a secret. He's the face of a company that bilked its consumers and banks out of potentially $450 million. Also, Bob may or may not be dead. But let's back up. If you grew up in the early 2000s, chances are you likely saw these ads with some regularity. The commercials were simple enough, showing Bob beaming from ear to ear as he excels at almost every aspect of his life, primarily because he's using Enzyte. The commercials, for a company called Berkeley Premium Nutraceuticals, a more made-up name I don't think I've ever heard, was run by CEO and founder Stephen Warshak. The commercials seemed to promise essentially one thing and one thing only: that the answer to all of life's problems can be achieved by having a pill that naturally grows your genitals. This boosts your confidence so much, apparently, that you are then capable of doing anything whatsoever with ease. A titillating promise, for sure. Except it's all bunk. It's been scientifically proven that Enzyte in particular doesn't work. And also that genital enhancement products are simply fake and sold primarily for profit. But that didn't stop Warshak and his company from preying on men's insecurities the way so many companies prey on women's for net gain. Smilin Bob was nothing more than a con man who didn't say a word. His smile said more than he himself ever could. But it wasn't the actor's fault the character was utilized in such a horrible way. Smilin Bob was played by a man named Andrew Olcott. In January 2002, he got a phone call from his agent with an offer to audition for the role. New to commercial acting, he didn't see the harm in taking on such a role and considered that most advertising comes and goes with little to no notice. But lo and behold, this would not be the case for him. Ultimately starring in 18 commercials in total, Olcott got the job based purely on his smile alone. The campaign's creative director, Randy Spear, a former creative director at Leo Burnett in Chicago, was the one who came up with the whole concept. Seeing as you can't actually show natural male enhancement on television, he needed someone who would be capable of showing the boost of confidence from the results without saying a word. Thus, Smilin Bob was born. But the thing is, Olcott really didn't get much out of it beyond a paycheck. That's sort of the thing with, as we've said before, being a brand mascot. You're famous without the trappings of fame. For years, even while the character gained momentum, Olcott stayed out of the spotlight, opting instead to be oddly disconnected from the whole thing. His name never appeared on the company site, he never gave an interview, but he still remained the face of the brand. And that brand was about to have a lot of trouble. In 2008, 3 years after the commercials had stopped production, Warshak, whose background was in marketing, not medicine, was hit by the FBI, the FDA, the Postal Inspection Service, and the IRS after they all teamed up to investigate the company since it had thousands of complaints levied against it to the Better Business Bureau. Soon after, Warshak found himself in court, where a grand jury would name him, 4 of his colleagues, and his 75-year-old mother in an 84-page indictment that alleged petty theft on a vast scale. Warshak was ultimately charged with 112 counts of mail fraud, bank fraud, credit card fraud, money laundering, and obstruction of justice. How did he get here? Well, the answer is simple. Entice the viewer via advertising to try out the product with a free sample, then charge them for follow-up purchases they didn't make and never let them unsubscribe from the service. They made it intentionally difficult, or more like outright impossible, to stop yourself from being charged. This entire case, for the record, also changed the way the government deals with email warrants. Warshak's own emails were used against him in the trial, but thanks to a court hearing he did win, a ruling was passed that now requires prosecutors to get warrants before they search email accounts. This is a double-edged sword. On one hand, sure, it's excellent that prosecutors cannot simply go to an ISP and ask for email access on a whim, but it also makes it harder for prosecutors to target CEOs who are running fraudulent companies. And what happened to Olcott? Well, that was a bit messier to conclude. Thanks to his self-imposed anonymity, for a while rumors abounded that he died in a boating accident off in the Caribbean. Others stated that the accident had been no accident at all, and the man behind Smilin Bob had been intentionally bumped off, or maybe even faked his own death. Olcott, however, is very much alive and well, reading all of this with nothing more than amusement. He doesn't hide the fact that he was Smilin Bob. He says everyone in his life knows this, and he's proud of it. But he does say there's power in anonymity. It also hasn't helped his work, apparently, as he lost commercial roles entirely based on the fact that the director learned he was Smilin Bob. So these days, instead of commercial work, Olcott makes his living through an advertising business he himself co-founded in Vancouver. He paints, and he still acts, but ultimately, he's happy with the role he played, and the icon he's become. In 2008, an investment group led by Cincinnati businessman Chuck Kubicki brought Berkeley's assets out of bankruptcy, including Insight. Soon after this, they flew Olcott to Las Vegas for a trade show, where fans lined up for pictures with him. According to one man who got a selfie with Olcott, he said, "I got a picture of me with President Obama, and now I'll have a picture of me with Smilin Bob hanging right beside it." If that doesn't just about sum up America, then I don't know what does. Mascots, as we've said a number of times through this show, are neither good nor bad. They serve a singular purpose: to entice a customer into buying a product. The consumer can still say no. Nobody's forcing them to buy these things. But it's when those mascots get co-opted, like Mac Tonight or Aaron Esurance, that things get a bit sticky. People see what they want to see in art. Everything is subjective, the eye of the beholder and all that. But sometimes things are exactly what they appear to be. Smilin Bob was a man who didn't say a word, and yet he wound up having a lot to say about him. And remember, if you have an ad campaign that lasts longer than 6 hours, please see a doctor right away.